This is the definition of elite entrenched bureaucracy. And these guys are in every single agency.
So you have a piece on the RCP front page, which would be of special interest to anyone in the audience who's in the federal government. And the headline is "No Participation Trophies. Trump Revamps Performance Reviews for Top Bureaucrats." So what's going on?
So what is going on is the performance reviews are about to get a lot more difficult for the upper echelon of the bureaucracy. These are the executives, usually folks who are one level below a political appointee, such as a cabinet secretary. And what the White House is doing with this new rule is they are letting those folks know, there's usually about 8,000 of these senior executives, that the performance metrics are going to be much stricter. Under the current regime, about 96% of these senior executives in the federal government, they're getting top marks. What the White House is doing is they're proposing a new rule called forced distribution, where only so many folks will actually be above average. And this has all sorts of ramifications for things like bonuses and promotions. But, you know, the takeaway here at the 30,000 foot view is the administration sees the federal bureaucracy as the deep state. And with this new rule change, what they're doing is they're making life more difficult for that upper echelon of bureaucrats. And this goes hand in hand with the efforts of Elon Musk and Doge to make a more efficient government by clearing out some of the folks that have been there for a long time.
And so these people, you say there's about 8,000 of them. Who are they? Where do they live? And what kind of money do they make?
They're making pretty good money. The salary ranges between about $180,000 and I believe $240,000. There's 8,000 of them. The overwhelming majority live in Washington, D.C. This is the definition of elite entrenched bureaucracy. And the irony here is that in these performance reviews, 96% are getting high marks, and yet the American public increasingly doesn't have trust in government. And these guys are in every single agency. So the higher standards, the idea of no longer handing out participation trophies, the administration hopes that's going to lead to more accountability and perhaps moving some of these folks out of their jobs.
And when we say participation trophies, these are the real consequences here, right? Because it affects your pay and I guess your pay. That's the main thing, right? I mean, that's what it comes down to, right?
It affects your pay and also any type of promotion that these folks might have beyond what they already do. These senior executives, the idea is if you've got someone at Veteran Affairs, the Department of Energy, you want someone who's going to serve across administrations and develop that expertise. What we saw under the Biden administration is that their growth really exploded. There were a lot more senior executives than there were previously. And it's a small community, relatively small in comparison to some of the other folks who have been affected by Doge and by the Trump administration. But this one is going to have oversized effects because, the argument from the White House has been that if the bureaucracy is in charge and if they can undermine what the president wants to do, then we no longer live in a democracy. We live in a sort of administrative state. And this is just another it's just another sort of pinprick, another reform, another cut to try and change all of that.
Yeah. Well, small, 8,000, but not so small that they don't have some sort of representation, right? They have the Senior Executives Association. What does the Senior Executives Association say about all this?
Certainly they don't like it. The Senior Executives Association is a bit of a trade group for government employees. They're here in Washington, D.C., and they are of the opinion, not one that I think is held by most Americans, that folks in these government jobs are there solely because of merit. The administration clearly doesn't believe that.
Yeah. Well, there's some politics around this, local politics as well. Don Beyer, who's a Democrat, represents Northern Virginia. He introduced the Rehire Act, which is restoring and hiring incentives for removed employees. This is I don't think it's going to get anywhere in the Republican Congress. But basically, the idea is to give fired federal employees preference for new federal jobs. This is a way to get those that 1% or so of federal employees who have been let go under Trump a leg up, kind of like veterans have when it comes to federal hiring. On the surface of it, it sounds like a pretty reasonable idea, I guess. But what do you make of it? And like I say, I don't think it's going anywhere on the Hill, but it shows you the power of federal employees in the Washington metro area for sure.
Absolutely. I can't imagine that a president AOC starting in 2029 wouldn't immediately reach out to some of these fired bureaucrats or bureaucrats who retired early. But if you take a step back, I think that there's a larger cultural question happening here. I was talking to Indiana Senator Jim Banks, who had an interesting confrontation with a fired HHS employee. And that employee tracked him down in the Senate, said, are you going to do anything for fired federal employees such as myself? And Banks, who's normally kind of exudes Hoosier hospitality, he's kind of a reserved fellow, he said, you probably deserved it. And that was harsh, right? But if you think about it, there was maybe a one-day story. This certainly wasn't a lot of follow-up when a lot of these manufacturing plants in the Midwest closed, right? It wasn't until the journalist and academic class got around to reading The China Shock in 2014 that they started to think, oh my, some of this deindustrialization is a bad idea. So it's interesting that it's almost as if these federal employees are a protected class, and we have had nonstop wall-to-wall coverage from the very beginning of the Trump administration, 100 days now. And yet, I can't recall the New York Times writing about, Harvester pulling out of Indiana. And if they did, they certainly didn't give it a second-day story. So I think it shows sort of the power of those constituencies and the emphasis of, some folks who live on the coast.